Hey, this is Abe.
And this is Alexa.
Welcome back to the Get Out and Enjoy Life podcast, or GOEL.
Today we're talking about the do's and don'ts that we learned on our latest trip and how we planned our trip to Italy.
Yeah, so this trip gave us a lot of things to contemplate and think, like what we're going to do on our following trips. And I'm excited to put what we learned into practice on these following trips that we have coming up.
Yeah. One of the things that I think worked really well from everything we read and gathered before this trip, I'll start with our water bottles. They were portable. They weren't just stainless steel water bottles. We did bring one like that.
And we actually ended up getting rid of it as well.
Yeah, we did. These were actually foldable water bottles, and they worked really well. They molded to our bodies if we were carrying them. It was really easy to fold them up and take them everywhere, put it in our backpack, put it in my purse.
And they were big too. Like they carried about 1 liter of water.
Yeah.
So we would only usually take one out at a time because we could fill them up at water fountains.
Right.
One of the cool things about Italy, specifically in Rome, there were water fountains everywhere.
Yeah.
And we had learned this on another podcast or a YouTube video, that there's an app for these water fountains.
Which is cool.
Yeah, and so we could just figure out what water fountain to go to that was close to us to go fill it up.
And I'll say that I was going to jump in and say that these water fountains are not like our usual ones that we have here at home where you press the button and the stream comes out. These are very old school. I mean, you're literally walking up to random fountains that just have a stream of water coming out by themselves, and you just stick your water bottle under there and fill it up. And all the water is clean. Like, we had no issues with water, actually.
No. Even in like one of the airports, there were no water fountains in there.
Right.
But it said that we could fill up our water bottles from the sink.
From the bathroom, sink.
Which was interesting. But it worked well, and we didn't get sick. Nope. So that was definitely a plus. One of the things that Alexa really pushed for on this trip was bringing a portable fan. I wasn't a super big fan of it going into the trip, but it was a great idea.
Yeah, I have seen people use them on different trips, and I also was coming from the thought of it's the hottest part of the year in Italy. It's going to be over 100 degrees when we're there. We're going to need something that's going to cool us down. So we brought these little handheld fans. I got mine from Home Depot, actually.
Yeah,
Where'd you get yours?
You got yours for like $10 or something.
Yeah, it was like $10.
I got mine off of Amazon, and mine wasn't mine was more rigid. Yeah. I liked yours because it was really collapsible. Yeah. And you could fit it in your pocket, and it was great.
Yeah, I fit it into my purse a lot of times. It actually even had a flashlight on it, which was cool. That's right,
yeah. It could be used as a battery pack as well.
Right, it could be used as a battery pack for your phone. So it was just a great device to bring with.
And then one of the other things that we really enjoyed, like that saved us in the heat of the day, were umbrellas.
Yes, I never use an umbrella ever. And you would think I might use one at home because it rains a lot here in Washington, but I never use it, and it was the best thing ever to bring. It really provided enough shade for us to cool down when it was really hot, and it was pretty portable. Like, it was easy to bring with us.
And it was also a cheap thing to bring. We got ours, I think, from like... I think it was like Ross or something like that.
Something like that.
But ours were about, I think I had said 6 inches in a previous podcast, but they were probably more around 12 inches actually.
Something
they
like
weren't.
That. They're like on the small side.
I think they were like $15 a piece. So, I mean, you can definitely buy like $60 umbrellas that are way smaller, but they all do the same thing. We were able to get by with these, and they worked great.
And you would be surprised how many umbrellas we really did see while we were in Italy. Quite a few.
There were quite a few.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked about these umbrellas was they were black, and so they kind of blended in a little bit more. We used them all over the place, just while walking.
At the beach?
At the beach, or while we were waiting for the boat. We didn't always bring both of them, but it really was best to bring both.
Right.
So the next one, great thing that we had was our converter and power strips.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about that was literally the power strip, because you get multiple outlets out of it.
Right. It was really nice. We each would have like one plug in the wall next to us, and that would be the only plugs that we saw like near us. So it was nice to be able to, charge our phones. I have like an Apple Watch, charge different things that we needed for the day.
Yeah, and then you don't have to have all these different, just plugs in itself.
Right.
You just have to bring the USB cords.
Right.
Which one, just to make a point, one of the interesting things was a lot of these hostels and even hotels, they had USB-A ports in the wall, so you could just plug it in.
Right.
If you had a USB-C, it wouldn't work, but even some of the planes actually had USB-A ports. And one of them had a USB-C port.
Yeah, which is really awesome.
Yeah, which is way new. So
another thing that I really liked that came in handy was we brought a light backpack, literally one that could be folded up, that we put into our suitcase or a backpack, I don't remember. But
yeah, it folded down to like 6 inches.
Yeah. Just in case you don't know how Abe and I packed for this trip, we each brought a backpack and we each brought a suitcase. So we thought, that's going to be good enough for us. But we brought this light backpack just in case. I was carrying a pack-safe backpack. And if you're not sure kind of what that is, it's a backpack that is like, has the RFID protection. You can't slash through the backpack. But it's heavy, just on its own.
Because it's got a lot of hardware in it. It's,
right.
Got basically metal wire going down the straps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was heavy. I felt like it almost cut off the circulation in your shoulders a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so while it's very safe, and I would feel safe just kind of taking it around from my regular day-to-day, it was pretty heavy to be carrying around, on top of having a laptop in there, my books, all those different things. And so we carried it around for a little bit in Rome, and then we just decided to stop carrying that backpack. Yeah. So we took out this foldable one.
And the foldable one, the brand of it is called Matador.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just so you guys know.
And we just put the necessities in it. Literally, water bottle if we needed, like, I don't know.
A battery pack.
A battery pack or something.
We would take our sunscreen if we needed it.
Yeah.
Just so we could reapply throughout the day.
Yeah, and it was so easy to carry that.
Yeah, it was great. I actually got that backpack when I went to Thailand. Mm-hmm. And we just happened to bring it kind of on a whim as we were packing.
Yeah.
So the other great thing that we did was pack. We brought a lot of clothes, but specifically the clothes that we wore a lot were the more on the lighter side, the shorts and the linens. And you wore quite a bit of dresses.
I basically wore dresses the entire trip. I think there were only a couple days where I wore like linen pants. Most people there, as far as the women go, wear a lot of dresses, a lot of colorful things. I had some cotton stuff. I had some linen. And then I had some polyester stuff, which worked out well. It was just easy to throw on. I already had an outfit, so it was really nice. I think if I traveled again, I would bring less clothes, actually, and just dresses for that specific place.
And then, bringing the cotton and the linen, unfortunately, if you put it in a dryer, it tends to shrink. Yeah. At home, we'll usually hang it up on a hanger or something like that. We didn't bring any hangers with us, but we did bring a parachute cord, which was
a clothesline.
Yeah, it was a clothesline. You could use any type of really parachute cord or rope, and we just happened to order this one offline, and it worked well because it had little clips on it. You could clip it up. We had a balcony in a couple of places, or we just strung it up across the room, and we could dry our stuff.
Yeah, and in Italy, if you're just walking around the streets and things like that, in people's apartments or just outside of them, you can see people have strung up their clothes. That's how they dry it. It works. It'll be dry overnight.
Yeah, or even during the day in the heat of the day, because it was getting up to 100 degrees there.
Right.
One of the other things was travel books. So we did a lot of Rick Steves' travel books, and he really puts everything together.
Yeah, he gives good recommendations for hotels, which actually we stayed at some of those places that unknowingly. Yeah. So that's great. We loved some of our absolutely loved some of our stays. He also suggests tours, how to get around. Actually, when we went to Capri, he had a lot of good suggestions about taking the bus and where to go specifically and what city to go and visit. So it was really nice to have those books and have the suggestions when we needed them.
Yeah, and then because they were specific to the city or the region that we were in, we were staying at hostels, we would usually leave them behind in the bookshelf at the hostels.
Or hotels. Yeah, or hotels, bed and breakfast.
where other people could use them.
Right.
That were staying in that area because we were moving on and they weren't any use to us outside of that region.
And I actually highly recommend that if you do have travel books, you go through them and mark the pages before you even leave for your trip. It makes it a lot easier to go back instead of sitting there and reading on your off time.
Yeah. So in terms of researching the areas as well, having your phone is great.
Yes.
And we have Verizon, and we actually ended up finding that we thought we were going to have to pay $10 a day for the international travel. But they said if you're there longer than 10 days, they recommend just paying $100. I think it's for the month.
It's like a flat fee.
Yeah.
For each of our phones.
Which was great. It saved us a ton, like a couple $100.
Yeah, which was awesome. And it does limit you on the amount of minutes. Like you can actually call somebody, but it's unlimited text messages. It's
because our plan is unlimited. So yeah, but it goes off of whatever plan I think you have generally.
Yeah.
And with the phones, they almost held up throughout the day every single time.
Yeah.
I was really surprised.
We only use the phones for maps to get different places, but we weren't generally on them during the day.
No. And we did bring a backup battery, which was one of those good things to have as well. And specifically, it was a MagSafe charging battery.
Yeah, and it's magnetic, so it just kind of hooks onto the phone. You don't have to plug it in or anything like that. It was really nice for the days when I forgot to charge my phone or, it just was, I had used it a lot.
Yeah, and they're light and easily fit in a pocket or a backpack.
Right.
One of the things with the clothes, especially the linen clothes, was that they get wrinkled really easily.
Yeah.
And we were really concerned about being able to iron them. And we had researched a lot about if irons are provided in hostels and hotels in Italy, and it had said that they weren't.
But some places even they just didn't list anything about it, so you couldn't really tell.
Yeah. So we bought this little tiny iron. I mean, it's probably the size of a average person's hand, and it probably weighs maybe a pound. One of the cool things about it was it converted to I think it's 220 volts in Italy, so it didn't require a converter at all. And we would just lay one of the towels down on the floor and iron out our shirts or your dress, and it made
so nice. It was really convenient to have that. It's nice to bring a travel iron, and we looked nice.
Yeah, it looked fresh.
Next, I would say having cash, actual bills with you is important because some places don't take card, especially if you're going to vendors that are just kind of on the side of a road or something like that, or a small, like a market or a small store. So that's really good to have. What I'll say specifically about having cash is you should take a certain amount of cash before you even leave wherever you're going. Leave from wherever you're going. So you can do that by going through your bank and requesting it. I'd suggest requesting it a week or two out because it does take a couple of days usually to get back to you. So we did take a certain amount of money with us. I would suggest that you request smaller bills because we did bring a mix of 20s and €50 bills. And some places would not break our €50 bills.
Yeah, they didn't want them. They would look at them and say, no, what else do you have?
We basically could only do that at restaurants where we were spending a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. $30 or more, they would break a 50.
Right.
Or €30, excuse me. So with, all the walking that we did, having a comfortable pair of shoes was really important.
Yeah.
Also, trying to travel on the lighter end, I only brought 2 pairs of shoes, One was like a nice dress pair of shoes, and then the other pair was a pair of New Balance shoes, and they were really comfy. I didn't have any complaints about them on the whole trip. They were more of a slip-on shoe, which I've never tried in the past, and yeah.
Actually, I'm going to be honest. Abe brought 3 pairs of shoes.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Because he did bring his flip-flops
I
for the
actually
beach.
even didn't bring them. You packed them away in your
I
suitcase
packed them
for
in
me.
my suitcase.
That's why
he doesn't remember.
That's right.
I brought 3 pairs of shoes. I brought a very short heel for when we did nice dinners. I brought a sandal, like a walking, well, I guess it's technically a hiking sandal. It's almost like those Tiva shoes that people wear that are really popular. And then I brought like a white sneaker that I knew I could walk in.
Yeah. And you had said previously, like on your previous Italian trip, that you had really poor shoes.
Yes, the worst. Absolutely. I was trying to be cute the last time I came, and my shoes were cute this time, but they also were more reasonable. I felt like because I was walking so much with these cute little brown sandals, I really tore up my feet. Like, I was just exhausted every day. My body just hurt, and my knees really hurt after that trip too. So.
And then, you're not going to be able to buy everything in Italy, or
No.
you might be able to, but you're going to have to hunt it down to, finding the right store for it. And so bringing the important toiletries,
Yes.
like having enough toothpaste or having enough deodorant, is really important.
Yeah, for me specifically, there were certain toiletries I knew I could not get. I use certain hair products in my hair. I have curly hair, and I did not see anything like what I used at home there in Italy. So I brought that with me. I brought certain lotions that were important to me for like moisturizing that I've used for like quite some time now, and they just don't sell those there. So it's good to kind of bring those things that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah. With the toiletries goes a first aid kit as well.
Yeah.
Ours was pretty robust, actually.
Yeah, you built that.
Yeah, I built it. But one of the things we used the most out of there, I think, was ibuprofen or Motrin.
Yeah.
I didn't see that I didn't
never
really look
saw
for it.
Yeah, I didn't look for it either.
But I didn't see it in the stores when even I was going through the stores. I mean, Motrin's all over the place.
Yeah.
Here.
The things I focused on more in this pharmacy was like lotion, like chapstick, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
More things you put on outside of your body.
The one thing I would recommend is we took anti-diarrheal pills, but eating all the pasta and everything, you could take almost like a stool softener.
Yeah.
We ended up actually getting some from a pharmacy, which is TMI, but the pharmacies there have them anyway. And
they have everything in these
do.
pharmacies.
It's almost like a little urgent care.
Yes.
When you go in,
you
just
tell them what's wrong with you, and they will give you something.
Yeah, the pharmacist is right there to help you.
When we were in Rome, we went to the pharmacy a couple times for just random things, and they have a wall behind them.
Yeah.
And literally, they know exactly what is in each, what do you even call that? A drawer, yeah. Nothing is labeled.
No. It
it's amazing.
It almost looks like kind of like, I think they're called like apothecary type drawers.
Yeah.
It almost looks like that, but on a grander scale.
Huge.
Yeah. Like just the entire wall behind the pharmacist is this.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to ask them for something, and then they just go to this, whatever drawer it is. There was, I think, a newer pharmacist working there at one of these pharmacies we went to, and she couldn't figure out which drawer it is, and she asked the pharmacist next to her, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there," and it was right there.
It's like a random drawer on the right, the third one up, or something like that.
And it's getting off a little off topic, but when we were in Sorrento, we had gotten some ice cream or gelato, and I was like, there are like, I don't know, maybe 30 different flavors of gelato.
Yeah.
And they were in these like stainless steel looking cans, and none of them were labeled.
Nothing labeled.
And I thought they were labeled like on their side.
You can't even see through them at all.
And they would go and know exactly which flavor was where, and it was amazing.
They had it memorized.
Yeah. So jumping back into our actual podcast, but the money pouches were like I
Really
use
nice.
mine every single day.
Yeah. The thing with me is, yeah, you can basically stick these little pouches under your shirt. You can have them over your shirt too, or your dress or whatever, but it's really meant so that pickpockets can't see, your wallet. And we were carrying our passports on us just in case. We didn't really want to keep them in the room most of the time, just in case.
Especially in hostels too.
Yeah. And so I actually didn't use mine that much. I tried to use it in the beginning, but because I was wearing dresses, it was hard to have it and I couldn't really have it under my dress because then I'd have to dig in there. So actually, I bought a little fanny pack because that was super popular, and I didn't wear it as a regular fanny pack. I wore it almost like a crossbody purse, and that worked out really well. But the money pouch was really great for you, especially when Abe had to hold my passport and things like that.
Yeah, no one ever knew it was there. I mean, you couldn't see
tell.
it. So, and then we're going to move on to the things that we think we could have done better on this trip.
Yeah.
One of the things was, we each took a suitcase. It was a little bit bigger than a carry-on, and they were zipper suitcases, hard shell zipper suitcases. They did have expandable...
an expandable section.
Yeah, where you could unzip it and it would expand out. So we definitely recommend don't expand it out when you're leaving your home.
Nope.
Yeah.
Don't. You need to make sure it's as compact as possible and everything fits in there.
Yeah, so because, if farther down in the trip when you're not packing things as tightly and you're kind of just throwing things in your suitcase or you're adding things, you want to be able to expand it. And if you've already expanded it, I mean, you're out of luck.
Not good.
No.
At all. And especially like I mentioned in a previous podcast, I bought a purse and I had to put that into my checked luggage. So I had to make sure I had space to put that into my bag. And like Abe said, at the end of the trip, you're basically, you're not folding things tightly anymore. No. Things are dirty, like you have to come back home and wash things and you're over it. It's best to do that. And also with that, we thought, don't forget luggage straps.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that.
We actually took luggage straps, but they were really cheap luggage straps, unfortunately.
Yeah. They broke.
Yeah, they broke.
While we were in Italy.
They all broke.
They all broke.
I think, they
and
all
fell
broke.
apart.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think one or two times they broke because it was thrown into the plane or whatever in the luggage area.
The
didn't make it.
The cinching mechanism on them broke off, and I broke one of them. So buy quality luggage straps is the name of the game here.
And the ones that are really nice actually are the ones with a code you can put on it, so that it can really be locked, so nobody can get into it.
So just that kind of goes with like the overpacking thing. Just don't overpack. Alexa brought up a good point when of not wanting to be rushed. We had talked about this earlier on when we were walking down the steps of Sorrento and things.
Yes. So what happened was we got off the train. I had my bag in hand and I wanted to bring it down the stairs so Abe didn't have to lift another heavy bag. So I was trying to get down, people were behind me, and I was in a rush, and what happened is I lifted my suitcase, and I think I hit the ground, and literally my whole wheel fell off.
Yeah.
And then I had to drag it down the street with the wheel off.
Yeah, that was a bit of a rough patch there, but we made it.
I think taking your time is so important. Even when we were in Venice, we were rushing, and your suitcase gets so scratched up. It's just not worth it to try to run and be different places. We knew we weren't going to get to our hotels like at the specific time when the check-in was happening. And people are totally okay with that as long as you give them a heads up.
Yeah. We watched a lot of YouTube videos and read blogs, did quite a bit of research prior to this trip. And, I don't know if I tended to believe everything, but I really found that not everything was true when we went to Italy. One specific thing was that everywhere that we went had AC.
Yes.
And we weren't staying in these grand hotels. I mean, these were like hostels and
hotels.
We did stay in a hotel. We stayed in everything really, except in Airbnb.
Yes.
So everywhere the AC worked.
Yeah, and worked well.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even have to use a fan or anything, like our little portable fans inside of these hostels or hotels.
Right, and also we watched a lot of videos about a lot of these places just to get a feel for what the area was like. But honestly, you won't really know until you get there. You can plan out different things, but really, you'll get the feeling and understand, what's going on, where things are once you're actually there in person. But I will say that some things on the blogs are true.
Yeah.
For example, we had to take a bus from Sorrento to Positano, and people mentioned online that this bus weaves in and out along the coast. It's kind of a crazy ride. It's also possible that you might have to stand the whole time on the bus, if you don't make it on there early.
And we did have to stand.
We had to stand the entire hour to Positano. I couldn't even look out the window. I was nauseous the entire time. People are bumping and moving into you. And yeah, that was truthful. I mean, we were trying to save money so we could, do other things with our money. But it is important to know that could, some of these things could be true.
Yeah. So we each used packing cubes, and those were, I think, very instrumental in making sure that we were able to take all of our clothes, and it helped really compress everything down. Unfortunately, I think, especially for me, I took way too many clothes. I didn't even maybe wear half of the clothes I brought. I really only probably needed like 4 sets of clothes because we had washers and dryers. We thought we weren't going to be able to wash and dry a lot of stuff. Yeah. But we were able to.
Yeah, I think this is my first time using packing cubes ever. I don't know if you've used them before.
Yeah, I've used them in the past.
It was really nice because everything could get really compact and you could organize things in a really nice way. I probably would have not used one of my packing cubes because I totally didn't wear those clothes in that packing cube. But I will say that, Abe mentioned that we didn't know if there'd be washers and dryers, but at some points we didn't wash our clothes between hopping cities. And so it was nice to have it was a little nice to have the extra clothes because we didn't know when we'd be able to wash our clothes next.
Just try not to overpack on the clothes.
Yeah,
though, because,
try to be really intentional about what you pack.
Yeah, that's a good word to use. And then also always be aware of your surroundings. I think this is said in many other podcasts and videos, but it's just you see these people that are not aware of their surroundings. Yeah. And we met one of these people, unfortunately, when we were traveling.
The girl on the train?
Yeah, the girl on the train.
Yeah. There was a girl we met who was from LA. We were talking to her a bit, and I remember her saying, "Oh, I thought I was going to take a nap on this train." But
right, she did take a nap.
Yeah, she did take a nap, but I think it's because she felt comfortable with us being there, or maybe she just was not aware at all, honestly. Yeah, but especially in Italy, when there's pickpockets, and specifically this train from Naples to Sorrento is crazy packed.
Yeah, and you're trying to make sure your suitcase is with you.
You want to make sure everything is zipped up. You want to make sure your bag is in front of you. I literally turned some of my jewelry around so that nobody could see it and try to, think that I had something valuable on me.
So, with this trip, we were pretty flexible. We planned out a lot of it, but the way we planned it out was we would say we have these things that we could do in this city, and we could do it maybe on these days, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, you have to be flexible. You can't just be fixed on, we must do this today. Sometimes things are different than what you expect. Like when we went to Milan, a lot of stuff was closed.
Yeah, and it just happened to be, that's when all the Italians were vacationing. Right. And so we had to change up our our plan a little bit, and it was still great.
And also, what I noticed while we were there, for me personally, I lost track of what day was what. So when we were in Milan, we wanted to go to Lake Como that last day we were in Milan, and we realized we had a flight to catch. So it was like, we cannot go there. We did not plan well for that piece. But at that point, it was totally okay with us.
Yeah. So we're going to move into how we built this vacation trip and how long we planned for it. So we really probably planned for it for about a year. And we didn't have a total idea of how much money we were going to, have to save up for it. But I think one of the ways we started was we just bought the flights.
Yes.
Because that was going to be the most expensive.
I'm going to rewind back just a little bit. First, we thought, let's take a big trip together.
That's right.
We thought we were going to go to Greece, to be honest. That's what we had in our mind, because we both have not been there.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like one of my dream vacations. Then it was like, well, Greece is really expensive.
Really expensive.
And so maybe we shouldn't go there. Maybe we should go at some other point, in a couple years or whatever it is. So then we were like, well, we loved Italy. Why don't we go back to Italy? And actually, we were watching this show by Stanley Tucci, who his family is from Italy. He's a celebrity. And he was doing a food tour. And we're very much foodies. And so we're like, let's do a food tour of Italy. So it started from 2 weeks. We said, we're going 2 weeks. And then Abe was like, what about 3 weeks? And I'm like, okay, I guess. And then it finally went to 4 weeks. Abe's like, come on, let's just do it and let's go full-blown month. And so I was like, okay. And so, like you said, the first thing we did was buy the flights. We know we're coming in this day, we're going to leave it this day, and no other thing was set at that time.
And that we decided we were going to fly in and out of Rome.
Yeah.
And then we could travel anywhere in Italy we wanted. We just had to make it back to Rome by the 27th
date.
or whatever it was.
Right.
And so the flights, that was one of the biggest expenses out of the trip.
Yeah.
I think the flights were about like $3,000 for round trip for both of us. And then from there we decided, what cities do we want to stay in?
Right.
And we knew we wanted to stay in Rome. We were flying into Rome.
Yeah.
And we were looking around at stays and found that hostels actually allow you to rent a room specifically.
Yeah. And by that, Abe means like a single room, like a hotel room.
Right.
For us to just stay in without, being with 4 or 5 other people or in a co-ed, dorm or something like that.
Yeah, and it's much more pricey than if you were to just stay in the hostel, with other people.
Right.
But it's much cheaper than staying in a hotel.
And honestly, one of the hostels that we stayed in was actually really amazing. It was called Rome Hello.
Yeah, that was my favorite hostel.
Yeah, that was one of our best stays in general, in my opinion. And they actually had a lot of fun nights too that we didn't participate in, but that were available to us, like movie night, game night, cooking, all these different things.
And they had a washer and dryer there.
Yes,
and you didn't have to even buy detergent. It was like when you put money in the machine, it inserted detergent into the machine without you even having to do it.
Right.
Or pay for it.
Right. So we definitely knew we wanted to go to Rome. We've both been there, but we thought, why don't we go experience some new things that we haven't seen there? After that, we were like, well, it would be cool to go like south.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go north, actually.
Did you want to go to Tuscany?
Yeah, I wanted to go to Tuscany, and you're like, I really want to go to the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah, I really did want to go there because I've seen so many photos. It looks amazing. Yeah. The colorful buildings.
And we've both been kind of to the Tuscany, Florence area.
Yeah.
So, why not? Let's go down to the coast. Plus, it was really gray in Washington when we were planning at this point. And, the sun and the beach just sounded so good.
Really nice. So, what we did was I decided, I really wanted us to go to Positano.
Yeah.
That was, going to be one of my highlights of the trip. So I was like, I definitely want to go there, but we have to make it down there. And then I don't know how we came up with Sorrento. I think we found it as a city nearby.
I think what happened was Positano was really expensive.
Oh, yes. It was
and
really
we weren't
expensive.
even going to go to Positano. We found Sorrento, and that's why we booked a week in Sorrento.
Yeah, we thought it was a good home base, and blogs and even YouTube videos were that's a good place to stay so you can go visit all the cities nearby.
Yeah. And, and then you're like, I really want to go to Positano. And I was researching areas in Positano.
Yeah.
And, just from what we had researched, it was anywhere from like $500 to $1,000 to $3,000 a night.
Yeah, just all along the Amalfi Coast.
Right. So we actually got really lucky in Positano, and we found a stay like Hostel Braquette for, it's like $800 for like 3 nights, which it's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but like for that area, it's cheap.
And this was another hostel where we got our own room, and we even got a balcony and everything. So it kind of was like a hotel.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was at the top of the cliff, which we had to, walk a lot. But yeah, so, and then I wanted to go up north. Alexa I'd never been to Venice. You had been to Venice previously.
I had been to Venice, and I think when we were talking about it, I kind of was like, I don't need to see Venice again personally. But I think it's kind of a must-see if you've never been to it.
Yeah, and I had never seen it. So we agreed on Venice, and we were going to stay there for only like 2 nights, I think, and then go up to the Dolomites because I really wanted to go do a hike over there.
About that.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the Dolomites, it's quite a trek to get there.
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
over 2 hours.
Yeah, one of the things that I had struggled with finding, like these towns in this, I mean, the Dolomites are
in
mountains,
the area,
right?
Yeah, it's a mountain range.
The cities around it, they had like 3 names. There was like the Italian, the German, and I forget the other language.
Because they kind of intersect all of these different countries.
Right, and I couldn't keep them straight. And then it was like the cost of the Amalfi Coast
up in, so like in these up there.
Cities, and we're like, we can't fit into our budget.
Also, there was like barely any kind of lodging up there.
No, it was like you either pay for this or you're not doing it.
Yeah, basically.
So, and we were only going to be able to spend, I think, like 2 nights up there.
Yeah, it was going to be so minimal,
So we ended up adding those nights onto Venice. And with Alexa had said she really wanted to go to Lake Como. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll research. And I thought Lake Sirmione, like my own...
Lake Garda.
Lake Garda in Sirmione, or Sirmione on it. But I thought that was Lake Como out of my own ignorance. And I was like, Alexa, I found a stay at Lake Como. And you're like, no.
Yeah, this isn't it. But I was like, sure. Like, we can go to this random beach town because one of our other stops we wanted to go to was Milan.
Yeah.
And it was halfway between Venice and Milan.
And so it made it like an easy way, kind of break in the travel to get there.
And it actually ended up being one of our favorite spots.
Yeah, it's an amazing area.
Beautiful.
I would definitely go back there. And then you wanted to go to Milan for the shopping.
For the shopping, people.
Yeah.
They have Fashion Week there and everything. I was like, that's where I'm going to like buy a designer piece.
It's so ironic that you like mentioned Fashion Week because like everything was shut down. Yeah,
and it's actually in a couple weeks
right.
from when everything was shut down.
I was like, oh man. But and then we were gonna plan on getting back to Rome, but we were like, you were like, I want to spend more time in Milan, and we were like, why not? We're already in Milan.
Yeah.
And so then we ended up just flying down to Rome to stay 1 night there.
Yeah, and you might think, wow, this is a lot of cities that you went to, because what we actually did not mention in those cities is we went to Capri.
Yeah.
Also, we took a ferry to an island off the coast, and so we went to Pompeii.
That's right.
Also, so there were some other stops in between these
And we were going to go to Naples as well.
We were.
But we ended up deciding not to.
Yeah.
Just for other reasons. It just didn't
make sense for us. But you might be thinking, like, how did you get to all these places? Because we were in the south of Italy, and we went all the way north, and Italy's a big country.
And we actually didn't plan on how we were going to get to any of them. We just we just picked all the points, booked all the hotels, and we're like, we'll figure out transportation after.
And actually, we had to book 3 flights while we were in Italy. So we knew those coming ahead of time. We did not book those there.
No. Yeah, the way we kind of built this trip, I booked a lot of the like stays, the hostels, and everything, and then Alexa worked out the transportation, and then also kind of what we were going to do in these areas.
Right. So we actually had a Google Doc that we shared with every single day of our trip, and ideas for what we could do in each city each day.
Yeah, so the Google Doc, like Alexa
huge.
said, it laid out every single day, like a scrolling calendar, if you will.
Yeah.
And then we would put the stay that we were staying at, the hostel or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when we could check in, and then when we had to check out, when we checked out.
And move it to the next place.
Right. And then Alexa would put in how we would get there, and then what we could do in the city on that day. And like we had said, we were really flexible, so it was just ideas of what we could do.
Yeah, so like I said, the flights were already booked while we were there. We had to figure that out where we needed to get to, but we booked one high-speed train about a month before we went there, because I was like, Abe, people are already reserving seats on this train from Rome to Naples. And it took about, under 2 hours to get to Naples, probably an hour or something like that.
Yeah, something.
And it would have, if we took a couple different trains, it would have taken us 3 or 4 hours to get down there. So it was worth it to do the high-speed train. But quite a few of these trains we had to book while we were there. There was no way to book it ahead of time.
Yeah, which was the little bit, nerve-wracking part.
Yeah.
Because, we didn't speak the language. You're trying to, looking it up, maybe a day before.
We had to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. So, thankfully, a lot of people spoke English to help us out.
And it worked out, and they could explain everything to us. But it was we just had to show up at the train station and see what train we could get next, basically, or bus.
We also, with the Google Docs, we printed out the Google Docs and built a binder with it.
Yeah.
Which, in hindsight, we probably didn't need a binder. We could have probably just put it in a folder to have, easier to bring around. Yeah. But it was nice to have a hard copy.
It was so many pages. We also had our traveler's insurance in there just in case we got sick while we were on the trip. We had our flight information. Also in our Google Docs, which I kind of recommend, is writing out your expenses and if they were paid or not. Was a really great thing, because some of them weren't paid because of how the hotel set up their payment until you got there.
Right, or after you left.
Yeah. Either or.
So then we knew we had to keep a certain amount of money in our bank account so that we could pay for these stays while we were there.
Right.
And then we really budgeted for, I forget exactly how we came up with it, but we came up with the idea of $120 a day.
Abe came up with that.
Yeah, and actually it was really close. I was surprised.
Yeah. We kept in our budget.
I think we said we were going to spend $60 on food a day for both of us, and then the rest was for fun for museums or transport. So the other $60, and it was a pretty accurate budget.
And really, when we were in Rome, for example, we spent way under our budget.
Yeah.
So then that allowed for us to go to nice dinners and things like that, where we maybe spent a little bit more.
Yeah, in these other cities.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave and take, the Amalfi Coast. It was stretching the budget a little bit. We got up to probably 130, 150, which Alexa rolls her eyes a little bit at me because I was trying to make sure we stayed within the budget.
No, I have nothing. I don't feel any kind of way about budgeting. I think that's great. I'm just saying, we did have some leeway.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So it worked out great the whole trip. I've used Google Docs in the past for planning trips, and it's just a great thing to use.
Yeah, it was really nice. And then also, I'm just going to mention, because people might be like, how did you save for this trip?
Yeah.
We threw in a bunch of money into our savings accounts for this, month after month since we bought the tickets.
Yeah.
We just did, for example, in my job, I do professional development and things, and I get paid for that. So that money would go towards our trip.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that helped was also I got a raise at work, so there's extra money there. And then I think we paid for our flights with my grandparents had some inheritance money. I think that's part of it as well. So we were very lucky in terms of how we were able to save and get money for this trip. But really it's just putting money, like Alexa said, every paycheck into your bank account so that you have money for the following.
Always designating money towards it.
So thank you for joining us on Get Out and Enjoy Life podcast, or GOEL. We're going to start our next episode with the things that we're doing here in Washington.
Yeah, and you'll get to see what events we go to, what we're doing in more of our day-to-day lives, and we're excited to share that with you. So we hope you get out and enjoy life in whatever way that means to you, whether that's traveling, getting out in your neighborhood, just seeing some friends, whatever it means to you. We hope you enjoy what you're doing.
And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Bye.